Welcome to the Whitetail Advantage Podcast with your host, Brett Bovin. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
What's up, everyone? Man, tongue twister right there for a second. Anyways, it's Brett Bovin, your host, and welcome to the Electronic Campfire. If this is your first time tuning into the show, thank you. Appreciate it. It's the show for all hunters and outdoorsmen where we can get together, share stories, strategies, and just become better hunters and get to know each other better. And I think that's why I wanted to start this podcast, because I love meeting people, I love talking to people and just hearing stories. And that's why I love doing this, you guys. So for all those that aren't familiar with the show, we do a live show Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And each week we cover a new state. So like, for instance, this week is Nevada. However, we weren't able to schedule anybody from Nevada for today. So I reached out to everyone and we got some guests on from tonight here from Michigan. And if you have any questions or comments that you want to say during the show, feel free to drop those in the comment section. And tonight, we're going to be trying out, talk to guests. They're okay with it. We're going to be trying in a call-in line. It's going to be close to the bottom of the hour, and we'll pop the number up on the screen. So if you want to call into the show, it's going to be 269-993-3653. Again, I'm going to pop it up closer towards the bottom of the hour. And if you ever want to be a guest on the show, I'm never going to tell anybody no. Anyone that ever wants to come on, I'm always going to tell them yes. We'll figure out a time and stuff like that to get you on. Feel free to message me on social media, or you can send me an email at brettbovin@whitetailadvantage.com. We also have a saying on the show saying, put your quarter in the slot machine. And what I mean by that is, all I ask is just help share the show, help get us one new friend. I strongly believe hunting is a dying sport, a dying lifestyle. So we need your help out there. And for everyone that's been doing it, I greatly appreciate it. I can't say thank you enough. So a little housekeeping notes here. If you use the code GP10, GP10, you can get 10% discount off Gilly Puck products. Also, make sure to check out MAGNUS BROADHEADS as well as Grizz Media, okay? Oh, man, I'm so tired already from doing that intro crap. I swear, I hate doing it. Anyways, it has to be done. Anyways, let's get into the meat of the show, guys. It's Thursday, July 18th, 2024. It's episode 89. 11 episodes away from the 100th episode. And a little side note real quick. We scheduled the 100th guest, and him and I were having some little words off screen, obviously. So we're looking forward to that one. Anyways, like I said, we're here in Michigan. And tonight we have on the Midwest Huntin Life. So anxious to get them on. And let's just stop me talking and let's just already bring them on. All right, guys. So give me 1 second here. What is up, fellas?
How we doing?
You guys didn't fall asleep through that intro stuff, because I swear I felt like I almost fell asleep during it.
No.
You guys still there? I can barely hear you.
They can hear us a little bit better.
Yeah, it's called a microphone. It's this thing right here. You speak into it, and then that's how you talk. I'm just kidding, guys. Anyways, for anyone that doesn't know you, can you give a little background about yourself?
Yeah, so we started Midwest Huntin Life about year and a half ago, I think. It was January 23. I was kind of just sitting at my table with my wife, and I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to do this for a while. I'm just going to do it. So we were sat there brainstorming for names, trying to come up with something, which I suck at. And finally came up with something. I sent Brendan a text because we had talked about it in the past. And I sent him the text and said, hey, this is what I named it. This is what we're doing. Are you in? And he says, let's do it. So We started it, like I said, about a year and a half ago. We try to film hunts. We do a little bit of stuff like summer season. We're working on like how to use a saddle, food plots, that kind of stuff. We just like to film being out in the outdoors. We do fishing tournaments in Ionia County Tuesday nights during the summer. We try to film as much as we can. We love doing it. We love hunting. We love the outdoors.
That's awesome, guys. And can you give a little background about yourselves? We're starting off with Ben there.
Yeah. So I'm Ben Dake. I'm 24. My full-time job, I'm an EMT. I'm a full-time EMT. Brendan and I actually work together. We worked together for about 2.5 years now. I'm also a paid on-call firefighter for 2 other departments as well. I've been doing all that going on 6 years now. Before that, I was a mechanic. Decided to switch careers, and now we're doing this.
Yeah, I kind of, I'm Brendan Castle, kind of had the same upbringing, kind of grew up, around the firehouse, that type of thing. Once I got older, that's kind of what I decided to do as a career. So I'm a full-time EMT with Ben, same agency and all that stuff, as well as a paid on-call firefighter for the same city that we work in on the ambulance, because they're 2 separates. So I've been doing that for about 5 years, and kind of grew up in the outdoors ever since I pretty much could walk. I was in the outdoors, hunting with my dad, my grandpa, that type of thing, going to deer camp, those types of things all the way up. And that's kind of where we're at right now in life, is just kind of working and enjoying, Michigan's wonderful things to offer in the outdoors.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as saying the wonderful things, but
Right?
it's an amazing state to hunt in. I can say that, but there's a lot of regulations and stuff that are just plain crap. But like you said, it is an amazing state. Just the scenery out here. You can go all the way from the bottom of Michigan all the way up to the top up to the UP, and you're gonna see pretty much fucking everything besides mountains, basically.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful place. The hunt here, we can get into that here in a minute, but like I said, obviously for people that are unfamiliar, so we cover a state a week. I obviously don't know much about hunting in different states, but here, me being from Michigan, I'm gonna pretend like I don't know anything, but it's gonna be hard not to, because Michigan is just, anyways.
Yeah.
But you guys are also firefighters. I was a cop, so the rivalry between.
Yeah. That's a different podcast.
That's a different one. Let's just say we do all the work and you do nothing. Anyways, let's start the show here. I'm just kidding. Thanks, guys, for your service, though. I really appreciate it. I actually tried. I thought about becoming a firefighter, but I'm claustrophobic. And I went to this like VOTEC school where you can kind of get your certification at a young age. I threw the mask on, and instantly I was like, yep, nope, fuck that. I ain't doing that ever again. But I had to do it in the corrections academy, and that sucked. I don't know how you guys do it. That's a lot of weight to carry around too.
Yeah, it gets to you after, but you get acclimated to it. But that's right. Cops are just firefighters that didn't get to pass the academy, so we'll just take it as that.
That's true.
What? All right, we're gonna cancel the show now. Real quick, can you kind of give like a weekly or a monthly type schedule of what a firefighter does? Well, not like, obviously what firefighters do, obviously, but like schedule wise.
So there's a bunch of different ways that like they run schedules. So like where we work is very like non-traditional. So it's like super hard to explain. So it's like 5 days off followed by 4 days on, and then it's 3 days off followed by 2 days on, and then was it 2 days off and 1 day on, and then 5 off again. But then you usually have like most places called a Kelly schedule. So you do like 3 days on, 4 days off with a day off in between. And that's pretty standard across the board.
Yeah. Yeah,
we do 24-hour shifts, so you get a lot of time off.
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. That's the reason why I want to come to firefighters. Like, man, I can get a whole freaking week off. Man, that's awesome.
Your season's amazing.
Yeah, it really helps with doing this because we have all the time off to be able to spend outside.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's dive into your guys' own personal tactics. So you guys are obviously very close. Are you guys very similar in your hunting strategies and tactics and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
a lot of times if we'll come up with a new idea, or we come across a way to do something, and we'll bounce ideas off each other. Hey, maybe we should try this instead. And we kind of go back and forth and do that. We pretty much do the same thing though.
Are you guys, let's kind of like mix of two questions: public and private, and or private, and gun or bow?
So both, we kind of bounce between both private and public land. We kind of have like our private land spots. We have cameras out, that type of thing. And we're really trying to like center in on certain deer. But every now and then we find ourselves kind of scoping out public land areas around where we're at in Ionia County. There's a lot of public land available. So it's kind of fun to be able to go out and scout certain areas, get really just kind of boots on the ground and actually walking around, seeing different areas. And then sometimes we'll just plan a hunt in 1 week for a public land, but it's kind of a good mix of both.
Okay.
So we also do, I started doing it last year with some friends of ours who are actually cops. But we go up to 2 years ago, they started doing it, and they invited me last year. Brendan unfortunately wasn't able to go because of schedule and stuff. We go up to the Pigeon River State Forest near the Black River. We go up there for 3 or 4 days. Our buddy has a wall tent, wood stove, the whole 9 yards. We do a deer camp up there. Boots on the ground, like you said, boots on the ground. We walk the entire time. It's more of a spot and stalk style, but we love doing that. It kind of brings back deer camp because that's almost not a thing anymore for a lot of people.
Right. And I know, so I'm 30 years old now. I'm an old fuck and be going 31 in September, but deer camp, growing up, that was the thing, man. Like my dad and his best friend, they'd go up to deer camp up in the UP, and I couldn't wait to go. However, when I started getting older and was able to start going, I started getting into sports and stuff like that. So that died off. But deer camp, especially here in Michigan, that's like second to none, basically, because basically it seems like everyone for deer camp, if you're going to go to deer camp, you're picturing the UP type style where no one's around for miles, and you're in this deep cabin, deep in the woods. You have a bonfire. Everyone's chilling around, drinking a beer, telling stories, and then you're going hunting and you're doing that for like a week.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what we do when we go on that trip. Brendan's able to go this year, so we do that mid to late November.
Yeah, that's when they always would go. It would be like the first 2 weeks of November. Mm-hmm. And however, I only bow hunt. So, and my dad, he only bow hunts as well. And I believe his best friend would dabble in with a gun, but not once in a while. But what on your private land, let's talk about that. What are you guys doing? Are you guys doing any type of land management, or how are you setting up to be successful?
So I'll admit personally, for quite a while, I didn't really know much about the herd management side of things, the habitat management side. I didn't really know much about food plots. I didn't know about TSI, really any of that stuff. I only started getting into that stuff a year or so ago. We hunt a handful of the same private lanes with a couple other guys. And this year it's a lot of ag fields. This year, the main one that we hunt is corn, which is the majority of the property. We only have a little chunk of woods in it. But within the woods, we've now planted 2 food plots. Obviously we started using cell cams, so that helps us a lot. We don't have to go keep tromping out in the woods and spooking deer off out of these areas. We can just get the pictures that way. But we haven't started doing a ton of the habitat management stuff as much, but we're trying to get into it more as we go.
Yeah. I had a guest on, his name's Dan from Veganless Podcast, so make sure you go check him out of Iowa. He's doing something, I think he said he was going to do it this year or next year, where he doesn't run any trail cameras. And I thought that was a great idea. Like you're surprising yourself, and you're kind of being a little bit more, I don't want to say picky, but you're like I said, surprising yourself and not worrying about, I'm not going to shoot this deer because I know that other deer's out there. Mm-hmm. Right. I set up all my trail cameras out in the woods. However, for the last 2 months, I can't find my fucking SD cards. So now I'm thinking, like, you know what? this year I might try it because first off, who knows if I'm ever going to find them again. And two, if I do find them, I'm thinking at this point, heck with it. Let's try it this year and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It kind of takes you back to, hunting as it used to be. I'm going to pick out this specific deer and I learned his pattern without ever having to go to the woods. It kind of takes you back to how it originally was.
Yeah. Old school type hunting in a way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I feel like this year I really want to kind of get back into old school type hunting. I mean, obviously I have my new archery, my compound bow and stuff like that. But outside of that, I really just want to go down and dirty old school type hunting and seeing how I can really do and kind of test myself. I think as hunters, we need to learn how to test ourselves. And also, like I say it all the time, trust your gut and get out of your comfort zone. And that's how you grow as a hunter. And that's just how you grow as a person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
For you guys, is there anything this year that you're thinking about trying to do differently, or like I said, trying to expand yourself and get out of your comfort zone?
I don't know. I don't think necessarily like expanding. I mean, like we're doing some like equipment upgrades, getting more like, a lot of our equipment that we were using before was a lot older than a lot of people's and stuff like that. So we're doing a lot of equipment upgrades, that type of thing. This is our second year using saddles. So like last year we were getting comfortable with the saddle portion of things and all that stuff. So it wasn't necessarily about harvesting a deer. It was about learning how to set up, how to play the wind when you're saddling, that type of thing. So I'd say it's more or less this year just getting into a better routine of things rather than changing stuff up. And obviously like new stuff is like our food plots and stuff like that. We really haven't focused much in on that aspect of things. And, we're trying to like the no-till food plots and stuff that we've already seen a lot of growth and progression in, and obviously it's been successful thus far. So, I mean, there's new things happening behind the scenes that are going to hopefully affect our odds in the fall instead of like waiting until last minute.
Yeah. And with saddle hunting, like you said, this is going to be your second year doing saddles.
Yep.
What was it like leading up to it? Like, what were the nerves like? What were the feelings like? Finally switching on, I wouldn't say finally switching over, but getting into saddle hunting and now actually been doing it.
So personally, I don't like heights. So when I first got mine,
wait. Time out button right there. I wish I had that. You're a firefighter and you're afraid of heights. I'm afraid of heights, and I knew I couldn't get on that giant ladder.
Just got to do it. I can do that just fine. I mean, it freaks me out a little bit, but I kind of just do it and don't think about it.
Right. Anyways.
But with the saddles, I mean, personally for me, it was getting comfortable. And I had almost always used ladder stands. And climbing a ladder into a ladder stand and sitting there, I mean, that was nothing to me. Learning how to use climbing sticks and the saddle itself and, tethering to the tree, 20, 25, 30 feet up in the air, getting used to that was definitely something I had to really get used to and practice a lot with to get comfortable.
Yeah. For me, I'm afraid, like I said, I'm afraid of heights as well. And it took me a minute to finally get used to one of those ladders. I mean, tree stands that are just with the tree that aren't the ladder type.
Yeah.
And I use a 360. Even there, I feel a lot more comfortable because I have a giant platform. However, sitting in my dad's tree stand, I can't do it still. It still freaks me out. I mean, the platform's like this big, and I feel like I'm going to fall out of this thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a comfort thing because, like, when I started getting into it, because Ben got his like right before I got mine, and we, kind of let me test the waters and stuff on it. I definitely felt more secure though using a saddle, which kind of sounds weird because you're like, it's kind of just like a rope and pulley system when you think about it. But when it comes to like actually like sitting back in the tree and like the maneuverability and everything, like, I guess when I had a tree stand, like I could always feel everything moving with me and all that stuff, and I kind of lose my balance. Like when you're in a saddle, you're just kind of like locked right into place, like you're not moving a whole lot. And then you also have like the adjustability to go certain heights and into like really deep pockets of woods and stuff that like you normally can't do. So like there's a lot of benefits to them, really. And it's just getting comfortable with it. Like that first year is definitely like the learning year of everything.
Yeah.
But once you learn it and you can get set up within 10 minutes every morning, like you can't beat that.
And it's definitely a comfort thing too, because I mean, sitting in a ladder stand, it's a metal seat. It gets uncomfortable after sitting there for a while. I can sit in my saddle all day and not get uncomfortable at all.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a little bit more movement, I guess. I can, like he said, I can adjust my tree tether. I can stand up. I can kind of sit down with my knees against the tree. I can swing around the tree. I can put the way I set up my sticks. I have them off to my left-hand side so I can swing around to my dominant shot side, and I'll extend my left leg out if it starts cramping up. I can move to different positions to get comfy throughout the sit.
And I think that's why some people, and this is just kind of me thinking, assuming, they don't want to go to a saddle because they're scared they might just fall or anything like that. But if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, it's called Lyman's line, where that's the sole purpose. It's around your waist and it's around the tree, and that's the sole purpose, to make sure that you are secure 100% of the time.
Yeah, so it's like a two-part system. So you have like when you're setting up your sticks, you obviously set your first one, you're up, on your first stick, and that's where that lineman rope comes into play. So if anything shifts, that lineman rope kind of cinches down out of the tree and sucks you in instead of letting you fall. But then when you're like actually set up and in the saddle, you have a single rope system that just has one tag end coming down, and then that clips into like a bridge. So it's kind of the same concept of like if something slips, it automatically like cinches into the tree. And you're talking ropes that are holding, like mine hold 10,000 pounds. So for a guy like me that's 270, like it's not going to snap the rope by any means.
Yeah. And I forgot to ask, what type of gear are you guys running from your bows, guns, and your saddles?
So we both run tethered saddles and platforms as well. I think our sticks are different. He runs XOP sticks and I run hunting beast gear sticks. We're both, I don't want to let too much out because we're going to be doing videos on this here shortly, but we're both getting new bows this year. We're actually picking up Brendan's on Saturday and you're going to film a video for that. But my uncle used to own a bow shop up north. I got into shooting PSE. I've had a PSE Brute for 10 or 11 years now. Since I've gotten into bow hunting, I've had the same bow for the entire time. Personally, I'm more of a bow guy ever since I got into it. But when I started hunting, I was gun only. My dad didn't bow hunt. He knew nothing about it. It was guns only. And we hunted north of the rifle line. So I grew up using, 243, 270, 30-30, 30-06. That's kind of what I grew up with. I've actually never deer hunted with shotgun.
Really?
Yeah. So and then my setup. So like Ben said, I have the same thing, the tethered Phantom XL is kind of what I run. And then my bow, I actually started out using a Fred Bear TRX 32 with like a 14-inch stabilizer on it. And I got that at a garage sale for like $75 and just completely like upgraded everything. And that was like my baby for like the longest time. And then 3 years ago or so now, I got Bear Attitude from a close friend of ours, and then kind of souped that up. That was a pretty good bow, no complaints on it. And then, I've been looking to upgrade for a while now. So I've got this new bow that I'm picking up on Saturday. That's all pimped out and everything. It's got everything on there. And then as for gun hunting, I started out using like the Remington 870 because that's like Michigan's gun. I feel like everybody has one in their household. So got that. And then about 5 years ago or so now, when I graduated high school, I actually went over to the guy that owns the patent for Ruger is for the 450 Bushmasters in Bad Axe. And so I went over there and he built a 450 for me. So that's what I've been using with the Leopold scope on it for gun season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. My very first bow was a Martin Jaguar.
Yeah, there you go.
And I went up to a Bear BR33, Shot that for a while, and then I got the Matthews Verdicts, and this is going to be my first year shooting the Matthews Phase 4. Now,
Yeah, Phase 4's good.
Yeah, I when I was looking for a new bow, because like I said, I haven't upgraded bows in 10 years. Brendan actually picked his out first, and he took me to the same shop, and I started shooting. Someone's like, I went to the owner and I said, hey, I have not shot a new bow in 10 years. What do you recommend? I shot a Matthews. I shot a G5. I shot one Hoyt, I believe.
Shot a Hoyt, then a Mission.
And then a Mission as well. And I ended up going with a brand new 2024 bow that I'm absolutely in love with. I don't have it yet. I'm picking mine up a little bit later. I'll be honest, I'm kind of cutting it close to season when I'm going to have mine. But
now I know you said you want to keep it a surprise for your video, but can you maybe say the brand?
So mine is going to be a Matthews, and Brendan's is a Prime.
A Prime?
Yep.
Yeah, there's no shame in my game. I went with the Prime Rev X4 this year. That's the bow that just stood out nicest to me at the shop. Like I said, that one, and it's a Michigan made bow. That's one thing that I'm a huge supporter of, is like local products. So I think that's a huge thing for me. So that's kind of what we try to do.
Yeah. And for broadheads, I shot a variety of them. Like my very first one, I was shooting Crimson Raptors. I don't even think they make them anymore. And then I switched over to the G5 Monix, and then I shot the MAGNUS Stingers. And then one year, I can't remember, I tried something different, but I was trying some other ones, and I just went back to MAGNUS because I love them. They're cut on contact, the surface volume, the holes that they create in the deer, they just pack a punch. So like I said, if no one's ever tried them before, I highly recommend at least trying them out. I don't know what you guys are shooting though for your broadheads.
So when I started, I shot Muzzy 100s. I went old school. That's what I started with, and then I started switching over to mechanicals. I shot Rage for a while, and I just, nothing against Rage, but I had some unlucky shots where blades didn't deploy. And two years ago, I think it was, I switched to the G5 Mega Meats, and I've had no problems. I love those broadheads. They have a giant cutting diameter. And they worked for me personally. I mean,
and then where I started, I think also on the same things, the Muzzies. Then I went to the G5 Montex. I think they're 3-blade, which those weren't bad. Those were good broadheads, just a little bit too big for my liking. And then I think it was you that recommended the Schwackers to me. And there's been no issues with the Schwackers at all. They deploy good. They're good broadhead. I haven't got to harvest a deer myself with one yet, but my dad last year, or is it either last year or the year before, he got a crossbow and he harvested a couple of that, and just the cutting diameter with those Schwackers is insane. But this year I think I'm changing up and actually going to Oztech single bevels. So they're resharpenable and they're a little bit smaller, but they're supposed to be able to like glide through the bone easier, actually like punch through a little bit better compared to some of the other brands.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of mechanical broadheads. Only one, because for my personal setup, I don't like them. Two, I just feel like there's so many problems that can go wrong. Like I've heard stories of piece of the blade being broken off into the deer and not deploying, like you said. And really, those are the kind of the main ones, and just kind of not steering your arrow correctly. But that's why I like just the fixed blade broadheads. If for some reason I go to a different brand outside of Magnus, I don't know which one it would be, but yeah, it's fixed blade for me 100% of the time. I did notice that there was a comment here from Thomas Miller. He said, "Ben, go to work."
Yep, that's a coworker of ours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we are, like I said, we're at the bottom of the hour, so opening the phone line. So if you want to call into the show, dial the number that's on the screen. I'll leave it up for a second. 269-993-3653. Anyways, while that's possibly going, let's dive into Michigan hunting. what's it like to hunt in Michigan?
Oh God, I'd say there's nothing better. Like, I mean, there's such a wide yeah, we don't have like the largest deer, right? You're not going out and harvesting a Missouri buck or a, you know, India or Illinois buck or anything like that. Like those guys produce big deer, but they also have a little bit harsher restrictions on certain things. But I think if you're looking for variety on kind of what you're looking to hunt, I think that Michigan pretty much offers it all. You can go hunt hardwoods where there's a lot of, you know, pine tree rows and stuff like that, and just real dense stuff. And then if you're looking for agriculture, then you come pretty much down, you know, south of the rifle line, right in that shotgun range, and there's just ag fields everywhere. So I mean, like you're talking two different types of deer you're pretty much hunting of the same species. Like there's like you just have such a large variety that you can go after.
What's the terrain like there in Michigan?
At least down here, I mean, there's you get your good sized hills. It's a lot of flat land for the most part, a little bit of rolling hill, like I said. But as you get farther north, I would say probably closer to that, you know, Cadillac North, maybe Grayling area is when it really starts. You kind of, I don't want to say mountainous terrain, but you get those you get a little bit of elevation. And then once you get into the UP, to the west end of the UP, you get into the Porcupine Mountains and stuff like that. So there's definitely going from the bottom of the lower peninsula to the north end of the upper peninsula, you definitely get a big scenery change as to what kind of basically what you're hunting.
Yeah. And first off, I forgot to ask, what's the hunting seasons like? I mean, when do they start and stuff like that?
So yeah, first of all, you got like so we have an early hunt in September. I think it's the third week. Yeah, third week in September. You get the disability hunt, youth hunt, and early doe season. So anybody can go out and harvest a doe. Then you have anybody, a child can go out. Anybody under 17 can go out and harvest a deer. And now actually the laws have just changed on that, so there's a little bit more restriction on that. And same with the disability hunt, or is it the veterans hunt?
Yeah, the Liberty Hunt, I believe.
Yeah, Liberty Hunt for veterans. Then you kind of you got 1 week off, and then you kind of roll into bow season, which starts October 1st. That runs all the way up to November 14th, and then that's when firearm season starts for any firearm. And then you can do that up until the 30th.
Yep, and then from there in December, I think the 1st through the 10th is muzzleloader season, which there's been some changes with that. And I know for down here, at least, I guess I don't know for the UP or really anywhere north of where we're at. You can pretty much use any firearm in that area now as of recently, just because of the doe population. And then after that, late archery starts and late firearm doe starts as well. And that goes until January 1st. And I believe they've extended that recently into like the first or second week of January now. That was a recent thing as of like a week ago.
Like they extended late archery season?
Yeah. Yeah. Late archery season and late doe season, I believe. There was a meeting, I believe, last week, a week ago today, I think, where the Natural Resource Committee voted on a bunch of new regulations for deer season this year. They were given a bunch of great ideas, and they kind of unfortunately threw it out the window. It was a big thing because the doe population here, really the deer population, not just does, but the deer population in Michigan is out of control. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, around here, you're seeing car versus deer accidents multiple times a day. It's insane that we can't keep it under control. But this group brought to the Natural Resource Committee a list of, ideas to kind of manage that. And unfortunately, they kind of threw a lot of them out the window.
Shocker.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I'm a victim of hitting a deer, and like I hit one a month ago. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. I can't stand deer that just, you see it on the side of the road, they're just standing there. And then all of a sudden you start slowing down and all of a sudden they just bolt right out in front of you.
Right.
It makes me just want to like scream. Like when it happened to me like a month ago or so, I was like, I'm sad for the deer, but at the same time, I'm like, yelling. I'm like, you son of the SOB. And first it came out of nowhere, first off, and I'm still pissed, but I said my prayers for it because I felt bad. And I feel like here in Michigan, like you said, the doe I feel like it's the doe population mainly that just skyrocketed, and I think there's a lot of regulations that need to be changed, and I see they're trying to do better, but they're really not.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, I think to get more hunters out in the field and to try and really control the deer population here, I think they need to start doing better with the youth hunts. I don't think they're doing it the correct way. And I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong way, but I'm saying they're not attacking it in a way that I think is right, mainly. I think they need to start attacking it more of at the school level. And I think they're just trying to say, come out in the woods, kids, and we'll do all these other programs and stuff like that, and come out here and whatnot. And I don't think that they're really out. Like I said, Michigan, it's mainly they say stuff to the public, but in the back end of things, behind closed doors, they're doing what they want to make money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and with bringing up the youth hunt, one of the things that the NRC changed was the youth hunt and the Liberty hunt starting next year are doe only for the next 4 years, I believe is what I saw.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. That did get approved. So that is going into effect from 25 to 29.
Huh. What's one thing that you think Michigan can do better in their regulations and trying to create a better hunting atmosphere? Because I mean, if you look at it, back in the day, we had the most hunters per square mile, and then it was like recently, where in the last couple years, numbers started to decline, and you take away COVID year because those numbers spiked. That's kind of like an outlier, but outside of that, all the numbers have been decreasing, and then Pennsylvania took that over from us. And what's one thing that you guys think that they can do better?
I think a big thing is just land access. There's a good amount of state land. You got the state forest up north that you can hunt, but like around where we're at, it's pretty much just private land. And the issue that we run into a lot over the last couple of years is, you go door knocking on a farmer's door saying, hey, can I hunt your property? And it's a no. And a lot of times the reason is they used to have somebody hunting it, and they, destroy crops, they cause problems and all this. And now these farmers don't want people hunting their properties.
And I think, like you said, Michigan, we have a fair amount of public land, but it's not a whole lot. But the one that is there, it's just like, it seems like I talk to other hunters that hunt public land. It's just so dense because it's so small. You run into other hunters, and that's causing people not want to hunt, because it's like, well, I don't go out there hunting because I got Joe Blow down there and hunting and screwing up my hunt. But they did actually create, I don't remember the total amount of acreage, but they opened up down by the Paw Paw River here in my area, Southwest Michigan. And so they did do that, which I thought was great.
Yeah, that would help. And I think they were looking at increasing the hunter access program, which is like public private land. These private landowners I don't know exactly how it works, so I could be a little wrong on this, but they basically sign up that they can have their property hunted publicly.
Yeah.
And I believe they're trying to extend that program a little bit to get more people into that, because like I said, the limited access around here, a lot of it's private land.
Right. And then I think another issue that we run into is, I say hunting is dying, but at the same time, it's still kind of a good chunk of the people are actually doing it. However, you get people are going out there hunting, and they're only going out after like giant bucks. I feel like they're trying to create this all right, if I don't shoot this 140-inch buck, then I'm not a hunter. So that's why I think another reason for the population being high is because they're not going after the does because they're trying to shoot that giant deer so they can show like, ooh, I'm a real hunter because I shot this deer.
Right. Well, and when I started hunting when I was 10 years old, my family grew up. I learned from my dad and my grandpa, and it was shoot a buck, but I mean, it didn't matter what size it was. You could shoot a spike that walked in front of you. We never shot does. And it was probably 4 or 5 years ago that I really got into, well, let's take 2 or 3 does before I shoot a buck so we can manage that population a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think that falls a lot too into like, I'm not going to say like hunter education. I'm going to say more or less like sportsman's education, right? Because like when I was growing up, like I said, I went out a lot with my dad, my grandpa, that type of thing, and we hunted pretty much everything, you know, all the way from small game, squirrels, rabbits, all the way up obviously to deer. But back when I was growing up, it was put meat in the fridge. You know, that was kind of the big thing, and it didn't matter if it was a buck or a doe. If you saw a decent sized deer, you'd shoot it. So that's where the population stayed a little bit lower. I think that we should implement parts of that per se. Like, I don't want us to go back to if it's brown, it's down. And then any set of horns you have step out, you're going to shoot a spike because that's might be the only buck you see. But I think definitely thinning out the doe herd should be a requirement in teaching people as to why we need to do that. Because like I said, a lot of times people when you're coming up, you're, like you said, shoot for that 140, 150-inch buck, and you let 30 doe walk before you saw that buck, you know. So at least, you know, make it a 1 doe requirement before you're able to harvest a buck or something along those lines, even just to thin it out and make, you know, that's what's going to help our herd. Ultimately, that's what's going to grow the larger deer that you want to see. That's what's going to get more people out in the woods because they're going to see larger deer ultimately.
And I believe Wisconsin is a state. I believe Kansas, I'm 95% sure Kansas is one of them, where it's like you earn a buck tag. Like you said, you have to shoot a doe in order to get a buck tag. Mm-hmm. And it seems like those states that are doing it, it's working out great for them. But I think another thing is, and people might hate me here from the state of Michigan, but I think November 15th, opening day for gun season, it's right in the rut. I think it needs to be pushed back. You can have the whole fucking month of December for all I care. But I think at the same time, you're helping out both type of hunters. And what I mean by both type of hunters is you have one group of hunters where they're after deer quality and they want to shoot those giant bucks and they're trying to create the trophy management, whatever. Then you got the other hunters out there that are just out there shooting for deer.
Right.
I think you can please both groups if you move the gun season back, because it's right in the middle of the rut.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think between that and from my understanding, talking like with when my grandpa was around and stuff like that, you used to have to put in for a buck tag. You know, kind of like how you have to put in points for an elk. Granted, like the buck tags would be more readily available than like an elk tag in Michigan because it's obviously a higher chance. But like you said, you had to earn that right to shoot the buck. You know, if you're going out for meat and just to put meat in the fridge, shoot a doe. Like it accomplishes the same thing, and then you earn that right to be able to go out and shoot that big buck or anything like that, you know. Or even if you're not going to do the putting in like points for a tag, at least put an APR restriction for how small the buck that you can shoot to allow the buck population to grow as well.
Right. And I think there's a comment here, Adam.
Oh, that's my cousin.
And Chartran. He said hunting is all. That's for truth, man. But I think now I lost my train of thought where I was going to go with that. Oh, I think because here in the state of Michigan, you have 2 buck tags, and majority of hunters here, at least in Michigan, they shoot 1 buck that's whatever, a spike, and then they hold out for a trophy buck. I think if they don't want to move November 15th back for rifle season, make it a 1 buck state.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, and the big thing that I saw, so here in Ione County, last year's the first year they didn't do it. So from 2019 to 2023, they had a 4 on one side APR restriction. So it didn't matter what tag you had. It didn't matter what tag you had to shoot something that had 4 on one side. So that was making a lot of people more selective into what they were shooting. And there was definitely a huge, growth in bucks that we were seeing, and people were shooting more doe because they weren't seeing these massive bucks running around. And then coming into year 2 and 3, that's when you started seeing these bigger bucks coming around. The 2 that I have on my wall actually came from those years. So I went like 6 years without shooting a buck, and I was shooting doe every year. And then it just so happened this third and fourth year, the 2 behind me, they just walked out, and I was like, holy crap, these are a lot bigger than I remember them from last year. Because I had camera pictures leading up, and they just exploded on year 3. So I think that's a huge thing, is like it's making people more selective into what they are shooting. So if you see a small little 8-point, is that what you want to waste your tag on? Is kind of the thought.
Right. I did want to point out, so like I said, if anyone that wants to call into the show, call 269-993-3653. I'll leave that up here for a second as well. But there's a comment here in the sections that said from Cudney Outdoors. He said more opportunity for urban hunting would help a lot. Now, I don't know a whole lot about urban hunting here in Michigan, but you really don't hear a whole lot about it. I mean, I saw the statistics kind of, I think it was less than 5%, if I remember correctly, where people are hunting urbans.
Yeah, so that's actually a buddy of ours. He has another page, Cutting Outdoors. He recently started that one. We film with him as well. Yeah, I'm guessing he brought that up because last year, my parents live closer into the city. And last year, my brother sent me a picture of an absolutely massive, non-typical buck in the neighbor's backyard. And it was rubbing on this maple tree in the backyard that's probably 8 or 10 inches around. I mean, it's not necessarily a small tree, but you could see this clear rub on this tree from 50 yards away. And it was, like I said, it was an absolutely giant. I mean, for a Michigan non-typical, I think it was fairly big. And I got fixated. I'm a big fan of Seek One. I watch a lot of their stuff. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but I watch a lot of their stuff. And I kind of got fixated on this deer of, I want to hunt this deer. I mean, this is a giant deer. My parents' house backs up to a kind of like a hay marsh, basically. It's a 10-acre hay marsh in the middle of the city. And on the township map, it says no hunting. Well, I called the township and I said, is there no hunting or is it no gun hunting? And they said, it's no gun hunting. You can bow hunt. So over the last year or so, I've been trying to find who the property owner is of this property, and I have had no luck so far, but I'm still working towards it. I'm trying to get on this deer. And when I'm growing up over there, I mean, going down the main road off of this subdivision, you'd see dead deers hit by cars daily, multiple along the road. I mean, the population over there is insane, and there's very little that you can hunt. I think that's why people don't necessarily do it, is, oh, you're only hunting 1 or 2 acre plots, and it's basically someone's backyard, more or less. I think that kind of makes people not want to do it because, you're close to people. You have the potential for, if you make a bad shot and you hit someone's dog, that's a major problem. So I think that's why I think that kind of deters people from doing it.
Yeah. Adam also made a comment here as well. Popped up here in a second. He said, hunting is all about being in nature and harvesting an animal for consumption. Spot on assessment about needing to harvest those as well as the trophy bucks.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, that boils all down to it. Making sure that we're doing proper doe control, obviously, but then also like leaving the small bucks to grow. It's kind of though I think what we need to start pushing towards as a state, and actually get that up to a certain level of where that's a mandated requirement.
And Michigan has, let me make sure I say this correctly. Michigan has the opportunity to be, if not better than Iowa or Kansas, the land of giants out there, because we have a lot of different types of landscapes here in Michigan. Like I said, Michigan's basically broken down into 3 zones, like I like to call it. The UP, that's zone 1. Traverse City, I mean, Mackinac Bridge, all the kind of down to Grand Rapids area, that's zone 2, and then everything south of there is zone 3. Down here in the bottom, you basically got a lot of open cropland, stuff like that, where your majority are going to see the opportunity of a 140-inch plus deer. Up north, it's a lot of pines and lots of different types of food, but it's so open that in a lot of swampy areas that deer can just kind of go hide out and grow.
Yeah.
So we have the opportunity to do it. However, Michigan's government, I think it's a bunch of crap. Like I said earlier, they just want to say what they want to say because we're a fucking blue Democratic state, and it makes me want to move every day I live here sometimes. But they say what they want to say to the public to make them look happy, make them look like they are doing everything they can, whatnot. But like I said, behind closed doors, they're trying to figure out how they can make more money again based off hunting because they're losing money because people aren't going out hunting.
Well, and kind of with that, and I've had the thought on this for a while now, and I believe in Michigan you can buy up to 10 doe tags.
Yeah, I think they started that last year or the year before.
Yeah. When they started doing that, and that's a great idea to help control the population, and our tag prices aren't horrible compared to others. I mean, it's $20 a tag, regardless of if it's a buck or a doe. But to shoot 10 does and buy 10 doe tags is $200. I'm not going to spend $200 in tags just to shoot does. I think maybe if they lowered at least the doe tag price just a touch, I think that would help. That would maybe encourage people to start buying more doe tags to do that.
So like you're saying, it's like raise the price on buck tags, but lower it on doe tags. That way it's more of that pushing.
Not even necessarily, maybe raise the buck tag price a little bit, or maybe keep it the way it is, but lower that doe tag price because like we talked earlier, it's mainly the doe population that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it would get people to buy more of those doe tags.
And if you're looking at the type of hunters that are out there just going out for food, for meat, you have the tags, go shoot the fucking does. Right. Fill your freezer up with that. And then, like you said, or we could do this. Keep the buck prices the same, lower the doe tags significantly, and let's just say keep November 15th the way it is, and you're going to get the hunters out there going for meat. They're going to fill up with all the does, and you got the $2 tag still, so you can go get bucks that you want to go shoot for. So it's kind of a win-win, but I do think, though, however, one thing I wish we would change is to at least one buck, so that way we can get the genetics up there of so we see more opportunity, have more opportunity to see those deer get to a higher age, because deer here in Michigan, a 2-year-old is going to act like a fucking 10-year-old compared to any other state. A 5-year-old in like Illinois is going to act like a 5-year-old. They're going to act their age. And I'm not afraid to say this. I have no shame in this at all. I'm not saying I haven't tried going out for does. I try it every year. Does in Michigan, this is, I think, another reason why does are the population here in Michigan's high. They're just so fucking hard to kill. They're freaking Einstein, man.
They are way too smart for their own good.
They're so freaking smart. I swear. Every time I'm sitting in my stand and I have a doe come out in front of me, like, all right, great. Here's my chance to shoot one finally. She's looking up in my area. She spots me, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting there. I can blink, and she's going to say, nope, fuck that, and run away.
Yeah, I kind of had something similar happen last year. I got a little 20-acre permission piece that nobody had hunted in probably 10 or 15 years. I mean, there were hunters around. There was big ag fields around it, but I had this was basically somebody's backyard, more or less. And there was really only one tree on this side of the property where the homeowner said, yeah, a lot of people, we see a lot of deer over here. So I sat this one tree, and my first sit out there, I had a doe and a fawn come off the neighbor's cornfield just onto the edge of the property. And it was getting dark, and I was concealed in this tree, like using the saddle. I really try not to cut many branches away for shooting these. I kind of just try to get my lanes set in the tree between branches. so I'm still concealed. And I think I moved my foot, like I turned my foot just a touch on my platform, and this doe picked me out of that tree so fast it wasn't even fun.
Well, that's like that giant one that I had out in front of me last year. It was, I mean, we're talking like, I mean, it was perfect daylight out, perfect shooting light. The sun hadn't even gone down a bit, and there's that little bit of rustling behind me. And as I kind of turned, I could see a group of doe coming up. And then I turned to look a little farther, and here comes probably the biggest buck I've ever seen in my life. I mean, we're talking, you saw the picture. It's probably
he's probably 160, 170 inch deer.
I mean, just giant. He had on his brow tine, he had 3 stickers coming off of it, just absolute giant. So he's coming through this thick stuff. I got my bow sitting there, and I'm like, all right, as soon as he clears this opening, I'll get him. We're 15 yards away. And he stops right about 20 yards in some real thick stuff, and a freaking doe looks right up at me and blows and takes off. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they're just so tedious. Like, they see any little bit of like twitch, and it's just dunzo. And I'm pretty sure I cried for 3 or 4 days after that moment. Because he came back out that night. We got a perfect face shot of him.
Perfect picture of him on trail camera.
Oh my God.
Absolute giant. I mean, that was heartbreaking.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. And fucking knows, man. In Michigan, I swear, like I said, there are Einsteins out there, and it's just hard to hunt them, in my opinion. I swear, I don't know what it is. Like I said, I'm going on my 18th year hunting, and I've yet to put my tag on a doe. I've shot 2 doe, just never found them. However, those 2 that I did shoot, it was in like that no man's land, right below the spine type area.
Yep.
It sucked. I thought I'd put a perfect shot on them, but anyways.
Oh, I've done the same exact thing though. Like, I don't know, they're smart and they're strong. I can't quite explain it, because that happened to the same thing. Like, I was using a shotgun, and apparently I hit the no man's land, but I was using like hollow point sabots. And so she goes down, and I call my dad, and I'm like, hey, I just shot a big doe. Like, can you come help me? And he goes, yep. And all of a sudden she stands up, and I was like, Jesus Christ. And he goes, what? And I said, I'm looking at a hole through it. It gets up and runs. We never found the doe. And I'm sitting there following a blood trail, and he goes, it's not dead. And I'm like, dude, it's beyond me. I can't figure this out. It was nuts.
I made that same shot when I was like 13 on a 9-point, the biggest deer I've ever had in front of me drawn back on when I bow hunted up north. And I made that no man land shot, and we tracked this deer for a mile and a half before we called it quits. And, it was, how is this deer still alive? Well, a week later, I was hunting this same stand, and that deer was out in the neighbor's field.
Wow.
They're tough.
They're tough.
They're resilient. I swear, the only way to kill a doe is just, you gotta shoot it right in the heart right away.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's insane.
Like when I made that shot, I was like, all right, I know it was a little high, but I was thinking, all right, I'm pretty sure I at least clipped the liver. And we tracked it for a good half mile to a mile, and I'm like, we're just seeing drop, drop, drop. And I was like, what the fuck, man? It's like I'm cursed when it comes to shooting the does. But I just give I give the does out here in Michigan a round of applause. Though I give them a round of applause, but I also give them the middle finger too at the same time.
So God forbid you're driving your car at 55 at night down a dirt road and with your brights on, it's game over.
Yeah, I know. That's the only way to kill. That's another way to only kill them too.
Right. And even then at times it totals your car and it runs away with a smile on its face. Right. I did the same thing to a doe last year, and I skimmed its back apparently. And I was like, I found like 2 drops of blood, and that was it. And I texted the neighbor, and I was like, hey, did you see a doe or anything? Because he was out. And he sends me a picture off his trail cam the next day, and the doe sitting there smiling at the camera, and you can see it's got like a mohawk over its back. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
I do love getting those trail cam pictures of the does. Mainly, it seems like only the does are the only one that do it, where they can look at the camera and you can see them actually go and actually legit smile in the camera.
Yep, that's exactly what it was doing.
All right, guys. So we're getting close to the end of the show here. I did want to ask a couple questions here. First off, for anyone that wants to come out to hunt Michigan, which I tell them don't do it, not just because I want the deer for me or all the hunters here in Michigan, but you're just stupid to come here and hunt. 2, why do I have a second point to that? I have no idea. Anyways, what would you tell people that want to come out to Michigan? What would you tell them to start preparing for? or start scouting stuff like that?
I mean, around here, it's like we've said, it's a lot of ag fields. So, go park on a dirt road and start glassing is the biggest thing for scouting. I mean, you'll see a ton of deer in the fields. Like I walk my dog down the road from my house, and like clockwork, about 7:00, there's 40 deer out in the field. It's just go sit and look for the deer. It's as easy as that. There's deer everywhere. Now, on the flip side of that is if someone's coming to Michigan thinking that they're going to shoot something huge, I'm going to tell them don't bother. They're wasting their time.
Yeah, unless if your goal is to shoot a giant buck, you better stick to the lower part of Michigan, the southern part.
Yep.
You better go over to the thumb.
I'll say I think the big thing too, like if you're going to come to Michigan, look at a geography map. Like actually pull up like look at a topographic map and actually see elevations, divots, looking at what kind of trees you're. Because I mean, like I said, there's like a certain line it seems like you hit in Michigan, and then it's like you're in a completely different state. It's really weird. Like anything I would say like north of M57, like then you get into those rows of pine trees and like just little shrubs and like real like logging trails and stuff like that. But like, as soon as you get below that line, you're on dirt roads and cornfields and bean fields pretty much the whole way. And then you get like southwest, like I was down in like Van Buren area about a year ago, and it was like being up north. It was really weird. I was driving through that area going, am I up north or am I down south? I really don't know which one I am because they look the same. It's really weird. So I think definitely looking at like a geographic map of some kind, like seeing what's actually there is definitely a huge thing, and knowing what you want to hunt is a huge thing. Because like around here, the DNR, they do plant public land fields. They'll put corn in, they'll put beans in around here and stuff like that. So even if you're from out of state and you're hunting public, you still have the ability to hunt agricultural places,
Now, like you said, great thing about Michigan is we can use our palm for a tool, if you per se. So if you basically took your hand and drew a line right in the middle of it like that, if your goal, like I said, if your goal is to shoot a giant buck or you're trying to shoot 120 plus, you stick to the bottom part right here. You go up north, and I feel like if you move past Grand Rapids line up north, that's where you're really going to want to test yourself. And if that's what you're shooting for, to test yourself, to try and find one up in that area. Or test your limits of, all right, I don't want to go where everyone else is going. I don't want to go try and find a mature deer in a very dense area. Go up north. That's where you're gonna test yourself. That's for sure. Because like I said, it's very open, very wide.
Go to one of the state forests. Like I said, when we go up to the Pigeon River, last year, unfortunately, we ran into one or two people that were camping or kind of around where we were at, but they left, and after those people left, we didn't see a single person unless we went into town. I mean, the second day there, I think we figured that we probably walked 12 or 13 miles round trip and without seeing a single person.
That's why I love the UP.
Yeah.
It's amazing up there. I mean, it seems like you have one little town and then you don't see another town for, it seems like 100 miles. You can go like 3 hours before you find the next smallest town. Yeah. Anyways, guys, like I said, we're getting close to the show. I'll start wrapping up here. You guys had the spotlight, obviously, for this entire show, but here at the end, if there's a story that you want to share or a topic that we didn't get to talk about, was there anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered everything that we were thinking about. Covered everything.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah.
There's not a story and there's nothing. We covered everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hunting. It's the same pretty much everywhere besides, I mean, tactics are a little bit different, but hunting is hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, like I said, I just want to say thank you again for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. For anyone that wants to reach out to you guys, get to know you guys better, how can they do that?
They can message us on Instagram, on our page. As well as, if you want to drop a comment in one of our YouTube videos, it's Midwest Huntin Life as well. That's really the only way. We don't really do anything else. We're looking into doing TikTok. I think we may start doing that just kind of for shits and giggles, but
for small clips, little. Snippets, that way you don't have to do a whole lot of editing or anything like that. It's just you can capture the quick moment and then upload it, get the views. That's what everybody uses.
I can post the little video, the little snippet of Brendan being attacked by a woodchuck during the season. That's on our YouTube channel.
I can't stand TikTok. I think it's the cancer to society.
I hate it too. I don't use it. I never have. But it's another tool to reach people and to interact with people and, get the hunting lifestyle out there.
Yeah.
Right. Like this new generation kids, like I said, I'm against it all, but if it seems like that's the way you go to get recognized in this social media atmosphere, climate, whatever you want to call it, to get stuff, the word of mouth out there. But for my personal view, it's a downside because you see these kids, they're just sitting inside and they're watching 50-second little videos of whatever, and they're not going outside. And the main reason I can't stand TikTok is because you get, for instance, I can't remember his name, but anyways, you get Joe Blow as the comedian actually making a joke, and then you get these women or whatever, or dudes too, of whatever, what's it called? Lip reading, whatever, the same thing that they're doing, and they're making a video on it, and it gets like thousands of views, and they're getting paid to do that shit. I'm like, really?
Right.
So if I want to get internet famous, quote unquote, all I gotta do is just lip read what they just said. So that's my biggest reason why I can't stand, because I just like, really, you're just spitting the same crap.
Yeah, well, my kind of take on it, and I agree with you on all that. My kind of thought process on doing it is, maybe that kid that didn't grow up hunting but is kind of interested but really doesn't know how to start doing it. Maybe they'll come across that video and they'll see it and maybe I can do that. Maybe I can reach out to some of these people and ask how you get into doing it, because I'm all for getting more people into hunting. We had another cop coworker of ours.
You don't need to roll your eyes. Jeez, we're not bad people.
We were talking last year, and he has a little bit of hunting property at his fiance's family's property down near Lake St. Clair. And he's like, it's a long drive to get out there. I don't have anywhere around here, and I really haven't hunted that much. And I looked at him and said, come hunting with me. I'll take you out to the woods. Let's do it. I guess the biggest thing with when I got into filming hunts and doing all of this stuff is, I like doing it. Yeah, it'd be sweet if I could get paid to do it, but I do it to try to get more people into it so they can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, and I think you get these kids out there that they come across these videos, and I'm not dagging you guys or anything. It's just my personal view on it and whatever. But you see these kids, they watch like these videos, and we hope they do, and it hopes it gets them inspired to actually go out and hunting. And I really do see that. I really hope that the goal is. But then they go out hunting, but it's not just with short reels, but it's like videos as well. They get discouraged, right? The first couple of years where they don't see a deer or they don't harvest a deer at all. And then it's like, well, I don't want to hunt because they're making it look easy and I can't even see a deer. And I'll be the first person to tell you, I went a couple years of not seeing a deer at all, shooting deer, missing them, never finding them. I think you also need to show the great side of hunting, but also the bad side of it, because you only see the successful couple minutes of it sometimes. That you're not seeing all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into in the backside of it all.
Well, and that's why we like filming, going out to the woods and, working on the food plots, putting out the trail cameras, doing all of that stuff, as well as I film us not shooting stuff, and I'll post the video because that's realistic. I grew up watching hunting videos. I grew up watching Jim Shockey, Ted Nugent, Lee and Tiffany, all the big names, and they're shooting these giant deer or these giant animals every time, and they make it look like it's a cakewalk. And I think that discourages people, and I'm willing to show that that's not always the case. maybe I'll go a week or two, or maybe an entire season of not getting anything. And I just want to show that's the reality of it.
Right.
I do think too, like, I mean, I think, like, obviously we talked about like the TikTok and stuff like that, and then why, you know, obviously I know you don't like it, which is all right. But like, I think the big thing too is I look at like how we were brought up through hunting and stuff like that, and that generation that brought us up is dying. You know, so like when I was being brought up through hunting, like when I got my experiences, right, I would go out every opening day with my dad. Like where I went to school, like school was closed on November 15th every year. Like that was like a sacred holiday, you know. And back in the day, that used to be the same. That used to be the same thing. So like I remember growing up, going out with him, and then like my grandpa taking me out to deer camp, you know, when I was real little and stuff like that, and walking in and see all these older guys sitting there drinking beer, playing euchre. They're teaching about hunting. They got gun racks and all their shotguns are hung up and stuff. And that's where you learn. That's where you got the interest in the sport. Like, yeah, it wasn't shooting deer, but it was building those memories. And like we talked about earlier, that's died. That doesn't exist anymore. You know, people don't go to deer camp. They don't do the things that they used to do. And like, I think like the hope is like, you know, on the social media platforms is kind of spread the word on kind of what we're trying to do. Like, you don't have to go to deer camp, but you also don't have to shoot these monstrous deer, or anything like that. Like it's all about the journey on like what led up to it. Like what's the highs and the lows. And I call Ben and myself like the world's most okayest hunters. Like the stuff we post is like raw footage. You know, you see a lot of these guys that are posting videos of, oh, I went out to Missouri and shot a 210-inch whitetail and all this, that, and the other thing. And like, you know, you see a lot of these guys posting just that. But like what Ben and I post is like, just, you know, it's the raw stuff, you know, like we're going to go out, we're going to see spikes. We're going to see only doe. We're not going to see nothing but a squirrel. Like, you know, that's the stuff we enjoy posting. So it's kind of the highs and the lows of what you're doing, you know, because like that, again, that generation that's died off. We don't have the things that we used to have, but it's time for us now to start rebuilding that. And like, what's the best way to start outreaching people, you know? And it's holding the attention span, those 1-minute clips. That's what people are like, that's what's going to hold their attention, you know?
Right. And I think it's great showing the bad side of everything, but hunting, I think we get so wrapped into this where you're going to go out there and be successful every time. That's not the reality of it. Hunting, it's a hard thing to do. And I think it comes down on the parents. Like for me, I got 2 kids. I got to show my kids, like my dad taught me, you're not going to be successful every year. You're going to hope to be, but sometimes you're not. You're going to eat a tag sandwich. To be able to harvest a deer, there's with Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, we make it out to be like this easy thing. Okay. Yeah. However, majority of us that now have these YouTube pages and these social media channels, we've been doing it for maybe 5+ years, roughly. We've got the experience. We know we know majority of what we're going to be doing. However, it's still a very hard thing to do. And for you to be able to put your tag on a wild animal and a white-tailed deer, it's extremely hard to do.
It is.
And I think people need to be aware of that if they're trying to get into the hunting, because it's not going to be successful. You're not going to be out shooting, at least here in Michigan, you're not going to be shooting a 140-inch buck every year. You're going to be mainly shooting 80-inch deer, stuff like that. But at the same time, like I said, putting your tag on a doe, especially if you're going to do it with a bow, it's extremely fucking hard.
And again, too, I think, you know, especially with social media taking over, I think us as hunters, I don't think that we've really put in the time and effort to really try and outreach. You know, we haven't put forth that effort. We have these awesome, you know, platforms in front of us that give us those opportunities to do that. You know, and I don't think we're taking that to the full advantage of explaining why it's boring. You know, why is it exciting? Why should you want to do this? What's also the downfall of it? Why is doe patrol important? Why should you shoot a doe over this little, you know, spike that's running through? Like we have every tool in front of us, and we're not taking that to the full advantage of what it is. Because again, the big names that got, you know, 1 million subscribers on YouTube, you know, those are the ones that go out and they just post this one successful hunt, but then they jump to a different state and they shoot another big buck, and then they do that all year round, it seems like. And then when they're not doing that, they're doing, you know, every state for a turkey and stuff like that. And that's what people think that this is all about. And that's not even in the slightest. That's people that have, money, like a lot of freaking money to be able to travel and do these $5,000, $6,000 hunts every week, whereas like Ben and I, like it took us years to get the equipment that we even have. Like it took a long time. I started out with, again, little not single shot, but little pump action Remington 870 and hunting clothes that sounded like tinfoil when you moved them because it had like a crinkle paper in it. So you'd sit there like this and wait in a little single person tree stand, that's what we grew up with. And now like people don't understand, like that's the grind. That's what you got to put into it.
Well, kind of going off of that is with a lot of these bigger names, nothing against them. They have all this fancy equipment. They have all these great things that, sometimes your average person can't afford. I'm hunting with a 10-year-old bow. I bought that bow with money that I earned from doing odd jobs when I was 13. It's worked great for 10 years. I've killed a couple deer with it. It's worked. I've never had any problems, but I try to show that you don't have to have the greatest stuff to get it done, to even go out and sit.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the will and the mindset to do it, you'll be successful.
Absolutely.
And don't get discouraged. And I think nowadays you get these kids are soft, man, and they get heartbroken or they get down on their luck and they're like, fuck it, I quit. It's this culture, like I said, these kids growing up, they're soft, they quit. The earliest sign of discomfort or hardship and hunting, it's going to put a lot of mental toughness on you that you need to build in yourself. And it also comes down to the parents. And like I said, I got 2 kids, my own, a 4-year-old, will be 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And I tell my wife this all the time. I'm going to train these kids, raise these kids to be fucking beasts, because if they just give 100, if they give 110%, they're going to run through all these kids coming up these days. However, it seems like if they just give fucking 50%, they're going to run over all these kids growing up because they're just so fucking soft. Excuse my language, but I just kind of get heated about it because you can't take the, like I said, it's on the parents to raise a kid to have mental toughness and mental fortitude. But in hunting, it's a different game. You have to have mental toughness.
It can be a mind game, especially with Michigan does. I mean,
exactly.
You got to be smarter than them.
Yeah.
I think you hit it right on the head of like how people are raised these days. Like it's completely changed. Like the first time I sat in a deer blind, I think I was 1 year old, pretty much damn near in my crib almost still. Like that's how I was raised. So like and like the equipment and stuff's changed. Like hunting, the abilities to go out and hunt have never been better. Like you have so many things that our grandparents never had. Like I still laugh about it to this day, but I remember being real young and my grandfather telling me that he was the only one up until like 2005 that had ever shot an elk in Ionia County, Michigan with a single shot 20 gauge. And I've used that gun many a times. And I've got a picture of the game warden sitting there with its head or whatever after they got caught with it. And those are the things that like, hunting has never been better, but we're doing a really, really piss poor job of getting kids acclimated to this at a younger age, educating them. Obviously, like, you go to hunter safety and you do like 3 days worth of work, and that's about all you have to do. But even hunter safety isn't hammered into kids like it used to be. Even when I was, growing up, that was to go out and hunt, to be able to use a gun and a bow and everything, you had to have hunter safety. And now you don't have to have any of that. Like, they don't enforce it hardly at all. Like, they don't ask for your card anymore that you used to get. And we're not educating anybody on anything that we're doing anymore. It's kind of just like, it's in the background, like we're just not, we have everything to do it. We can film, we have bows that shoot for some odd reason, like 200 yards. Like you have, like, I don't agree with that, but like, but you have these amazing tools that like people back in the old days, they didn't have that. So like hunting's almost gotten easier for you. And yet it's still dying, and we like people just don't know why. But
right.
It's all dependent on bringing up the next generation and educating them. That's huge.
Yeah, I remember my first time shooting a deer. It was at a doe. My dad and I were hunting right next to each other. Basically, it was like 25 yards away from me. Shot right underneath her. And at the time, I was growing up. I had to wait till I was 12. practicing every day with my bow, practicing. And I broke down crying in my tree stand. I remember looking down, my dad's grabbing my arrow. He's climbing up my tree stand. And he goes, Brett, why the fuck are you crying? I said, I just missed. I've been practicing forever and I wanted to get that deer and this and that. And he said, that's bow hunting and that's hunting in general. So pick the fuck up and you'll get it. Right, he said, I missed deer. You're going to miss it. It's going to happen. And he said, again, that's hunting and that's bow hunting. I use that as a motivator though. And I made sure to put as much time into practicing with form, accuracy as much as possible. You're not going to be accurate every time with a bow, but you just can't break down at the slightest point of inconvenience.
Yeah, right. I mean,
use those moments as motivators, not downfalls.
Yeah, you're gonna miss. You're gonna not see a single deer. It's boring, but it's also exciting at the same time because as soon as you see that, like I can remember. So like my first buck I shot, it was really funny. So I just started like really digging into kind of hunting and like learning and everything. And my dad looks at me and goes, all right, I'm going to let you sit alone for the first time. So he hands me my gun and I'm sitting in the blind and he goes off, into this corner and this little like 3-point comes out or whatever. And it's on the run. And I remember I put out the gun and I just start going, bah, 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 just yelling at this thing. And I just hear my dad go, what the fuck are you doing? Boom. This deer takes off running. I watch it go down. And like, that was the first buck I shot. I mean, it was the best moment ever. But then I went like 5 or 6 years without shooting a buck. And I remember the one that's right behind me on the wall, like I was probably 18, 19 years old at this point, and I'm just sitting there. Obviously, like the last 4 years have been discouraging. I don't have my hopes up, and I look over, and sure enough, I see antlers coming bobbing through. And that's when they had the 4 on one side APR. And I'm like, holy crap, that's a decent buck. Holy crap. And I remember I shot that one. Same thing. I called my dad up on the phone. I'm like, I just shot a freaking giant. And he comes over and goes, holy shit, look at that. And that instantly just like spiked everything for me right there. Like put the work in, wait for these big bucks. Like that was just exhilarating. That was exciting. Like a lot of respect for that animal. Like that was probably the best moment ever out of my whole hunting like career thus far. Like that was just an amazing moment.
And I think we miss sight of the fact of hunting. It's not just going out there and killing these animals. Hunting, it's a chance for people or friends and family to get together, enjoy the moments of shooting a deer, harvesting the deer, but not even doing that. It's getting together, enjoying family time and your friends, and just being around deer camp. And you may not go to a typical deer camp, but if you get your friends and family together, that's fucking deer camp, and just enjoy being out there in the woods. And it's just sad to see how Michigan hunting is generally going, how hunting is going as well. But
I think as Michiganders too, we have such a rich history when it comes to hunting. Like that is what Michigan was founded up on, especially like the Great Depression era and stuff, right? Like people couldn't go out and eat or, anything like that. They went out and they hunted. Like that is like, because the game was so readily available, and the game is still readily available, but it's easy for people just to go to the grocery store and buy T-bone steaks. They don't want to put in no work for it. And, but again, too, that boils down to like, going to deer camp, enjoying, everybody's company, playing euchre. We're one of the very few states that has a weird game like that. But like that's, you drink Busch Light and you play euchre around the, you got Escanaba in the moonlight playing on an old box TV. I remember that moment. Like it's like seared into my brain, like those are like, yeah, and like at deer camp, right? Like you talk to these people about like deer camp and stuff like that. And just like everybody had the same stories, you sat around, and even if nobody shot a deer, everybody enjoyed just being out with everybody. And you're all there for the same common goal to harvest. Even one deer was a successful deer, and everybody's sitting around high-fiving, no matter how big or how small it was. It couldn't, even if it was big as a Chihuahua, nobody cared. Like that was an exciting moment,
We used to play, well, we still play, Ted Nugent, Fred Bear. That's our song.
Yeah, I play that every night before opening day.
I'll end it on this note, guys. But I didn't know how to play euchre till last year, or the year before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, that's like what I grew up with. So I learned, God, at like probably 8 years old. Like my grandpa's sitting there going, "All right, start, calling your shots." Like, okay.
I can't say much on that because I learned it when I was younger, but I didn't play it for a long time, so I kind of forgot. And it was only like same with you a year or two ago that I kind of picked it back up and remembered how to do it.
Mhm.
So
It gets me every time with the Bowers though. Sometimes where like you throw like the Jack of Hearts, that's the king #1 Bower, and then you got the other one, a Jack of Diamonds, and it's like crap. I don't have anything left, so I feel like I gotta play that one, or I don't, or vice versa, or something like that.
Yep.
And we always play with my buddy, my dad's best friend, and he calls me on and he goes, "No, you have another one. I know you do." And he tell me I need to play that one, or like I played it wrong, and I'm still learning, but I got a gist of it for the most part. But yeah.
Once you get the gist, it's just kind of mastering the art of it at that point. Like it's a pretty basic thing.
Yeah, it's extremely simple. And once you kind of get the layout of it, and eventually you can start kind of counting the cards, if you want to call it that, of like, all right, he's going to have that, here, and vice versa, whatnot. But guys, again, man, awesome show, guys. Again, I just want to say thank you again for coming on the show. Thanks for reaching out and saying you want to come on. I greatly appreciate it. We'll definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, this is awesome. This was actually our first time being on a podcast.
Yeah,
it was.
It was.
Yep.
I feel so special. I was first.
Definitely sparked an interest.
Well, guys, maybe we can have you back on, or maybe we can make a special podcast or whatever. But again, guys, I just want to say thank you again. We'll stay in touch, and I'll let you guys go for the rest of the night, okay?
All right, sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right, see you guys.
Yeah, see ya.
Oh, man, what a great group of guys right there, guys. So, yeah, like I said, Michigan hunting, it's we have the ability to be the best, but right now we're not. But anyways, that was a long show. Thank you, everyone, for that's tuned in for tonight. I greatly appreciate it. And like I said, I wrote a note there. Sorry. Anyways, but that will conclude another episode of the Whitetail Advantage Podcast. Make sure that you tune in next week. Next week, I can't remember which date we're covering, but we'll see you guys next week. And if you're, like I said, if you ever want to be a guest on the show, reach out to me on social media, or you can send me an email at brettbovin@whitetailadvantage.com. And we'll just see everyone next week, next Tuesday. And hope, it's New Hampshire. That's where we're at. We're in New Hampshire. So also make sure you put your cord in the slot machine.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Whitetail Advantage Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.